Did you know that black women today spend hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars on hair products, skincare, and beauty treatments? But back in the 1970s, our grandmothers and mothers achieved the same stunning results: glowing skin, healthy hair, and unshakable confidence with items that cost pennies or were already sitting in their kitchens. Think about that blue jar of Vaseline, a little bit of kitchen grease, a hot comb heated right on the stove. These weren't just random hacks. These were sophisticated techniques, developed, refined, and passed down through generations of black women. This was a living archive of beauty wisdom. Long before influencers and ads tried to sell us solutions to problems we had already solved. Today, we're diving deep into 8 of these traditional beauty practices. We'll explore why they worked, how they were done, and the incredible cultural knowledge they represent. And you know what? We're going to see why some of these old-school methods were actually better than the expensive products marketed to us today. This isn't just about nostalgia. It is about reclaiming the beauty wisdom that black women perfected long before corporations started packaging it and selling it back to us at a premium. First up, the legendary hot comb. In the 1970s, black women used hot combs heated on stovetops to straighten and style their hair with a mastery that most modern stylists can't even touch. This metal comb, with its tightly spaced teeth, was heated directly on a gas or electric burner. Black women knew the perfect temperature just by experience, sometimes tapping it on a piece of paper to see if it singed just right. A mother or grandmother would section her daughter's hair, apply the perfect amount of grease like Dixie Peach, Blue Magic, or Royal Crown to protect the strands, and then carefully pull that hot comb through each section. Kinky, coily hair was transformed into smooth, sleek styles. The skill level required was immense. Too hot, and you burn the hair. Too cool, and it wouldn't straighten. The wrong move, and you could burn the scalp or cause breakage. But when a black woman mastered the hot comb, she could create styles that lasted for weeks, looking polished and professional. This was crucial for navigating workplaces and social situations where natural black hair was often stigmatized. Imagine kitchens all across America, a young girl sitting between her mother's knees, feeling the warmth of that comb, smelling the distinct scent of heated hair grease. It was more than just a hairstyle. It was a ritual of care, a moment of intimacy, and a transfer of knowledge that took years to perfect. Black women understood their hair's texture on a profound level. They knew exactly how much heat and tension to apply. This was a skill modern flat irons, with all their fancy controls, often can't replicate because the technique, that deep cultural understanding, has been partially lost. Next, let's talk about the magic in that little blue jar, Vaseline. In the 1970s, plain petroleum jelly was the primary moisturizer for both skin and hair in black households across America, and frankly, it worked better than many expensive lotions do today. Our grandmothers kept that big jar in the bathroom, and our mothers used it for everything: ashy knees and elbows, dry hands, chapped lips, and even on hair edges and the scalp. The genius wasn't just the Vaseline itself, but how black women used it. They understood that Vaseline is an occlusive. It seals in moisture, so they would apply it to slightly damp skin right after a bath, locking in that water and keeping their skin hydrated all day long. Before school, mothers would rub Vaseline on their children's legs, arms, and faces. You couldn't leave the house looking ashy. It was a reflection on the whole family. Black women also used it on their hair, especially on the edges and ends, to add shine and protection long before expensive serums became a thing. That blue jar was so universal. You could practically identify a black household by its presence, often nearly empty, with fingerprints all around the rim. Our grandmothers didn't need a dermatologist to tell them petroleum jelly was safe and effective. They knew from generations of use that it worked. It protected black skin from harsh weather and gave it that healthy glow that signified being well cared for. Today, beauty companies try to convince us that Vaseline is too basic, that we need fancy ingredients. But the women of the 70s achieved beautiful, moisturized skin with a product that cost less than the dollars and lasted for months. Now, this next one might sound a little shocking to some of you, but stay with me. Kitchen grease. Yes, in the 1970s, many black women used bacon grease, Crisco, or lard as a powerful hair treatment and scalp conditioner, with results that could rival today's expensive deep conditioners. They understood that these natural fats provided intense moisture to dry, thickly textured black hair that desperately needed it. A mother would warm a small amount of grease, apply it to her daughter's scalp and hair, and massage it in thoroughly. Then, She'd wrap the hair and let the treatment sit overnight or for a few hours. This grease would penetrate the hair shaft, providing moisture and elasticity that prevented breakage and promoted healthy growth. Grandmothers swore by it, having learned the technique from their own mothers, who learned it from theirs, in a chain of hair care wisdom stretching back for generations. The key was technique and moderation. It wasn't about slathering it on. It was about using just enough, applying it correctly, and cleansing it out properly afterward. Girls who got these treatments often had hair that grew long and strong, retaining moisture in a way that many modern products just can't seem to achieve. Modern hair culture has mostly written off this practice as old-fashioned or too heavy, but the proof is in the results. The women who used these treatments had healthy hair, because those natural fats provided exactly what thick, coily hair needs: deep, penetrating moisture, not just a coating that sits on top. Long before scalp care became a trendy hashtag, Black women in communities all across America were already experts. Back in the 70s, they relied on a powerhouse product called sulfur-based. It was a thick, yellowish ointment with a very distinct medicinal smell. Black women would apply it directly to their scalps, parting the hair section by section and massaging it in with their fingertips. This wasn't just a treatment, it was a ritual to combat dandruff, soothe a dry scalp, and stimulate healthy hair growth. Mothers would sit their daughters down, carefully parting their hair to make sure the sulfur-based got right to the root of the matter, the scalp. They knew its antifungal and antibacterial properties were perfect for addressing common issues, especially for kids whose hair was styled often. The philosophy was simple and profound. Healthy hair begins with a healthy scalp. So, while mainstream beauty culture was completely ignoring scalp health, Black women made it a priority. This wasn't about waiting for a problem to show up. The use of sulfur treatments was preventative. It was a consistent part of the hair care routine, happening every week or two. Young girls would sit patiently, knowing that the strong smell was just a temporary trade-off for a healthy scalp and strong, growing hair. It's fascinating, isn't it? The very knowledge Black women practice in their kitchens and bathrooms is now being discovered and sold back to us in expensive serums, but the original sulfur-based did the job for less than $5. Now, let's talk about another liquid gold from the 70s, castor oil. Long before it was a trendy ingredient in expensive packaging, Black women were using thick, all-natural castor oil for everything: hair growth, fuller eyebrows, thicker eyelashes, and even as a skin treatment. Jamaican black castor oil, in particular, was a treasured staple in the community. Women would generously apply it to their edges, on any thinning spots, and along their lash lines and brows. Mothers massaged castor oil into their daughters' scalps, paying special attention to the delicate hairline, which was often vulnerable to breakage from tight hairstyles. It was a nightly ritual for many women to apply it to their eyebrows and lashes, and they'd wake up over time to see noticeable growth and thickness. The beauty of castor oil was its viscosity. It was so thick that it stayed exactly where you put it, coating the hair shaft and providing long-lasting moisture and protection. Our grandmothers swore by it, and while today's scientists might debate whether it directly stimulates growth or simply prevents breakage, the results were undeniable for the women who used it. They had healthier hair, protected edges, and fuller brows and lashes. The practice was so effective that it has stood the test of time. Of course, now it's often sold in fancy bottles with a premium price tag. But let's not forget our grandmothers were getting the same amazing results for pennies. And who could forget the iconic blue lid? Let's talk about Blue Magic hair grease. For countless Black women, in the 70s, this was the primary moisturizer and styling product. It was a staple passed down through generations. Blue Magic was thick, had a gentle coconut scent, and was specifically formulated to provide the heavy moisture that Black hair textures need to thrive. You'd find a jar of it in almost every Black household's bathroom. Mothers used it for everything: after a wash, before pressing with a hot comb, while braiding, or just for a daily dose of moisture. There was a technique to it. Black women knew you didn't just slather it on like a modern, light cream. You used it sparingly, but worked it thoroughly into the hair and scalp with your fingertips. This created a protective seal that locked in moisture, gave the hair a beautiful shine, and made it manageable. For so many of us, the smell of Blue Magic is pure nostalgia. It brings back memories of Sunday hairdoing sessions, of our mother's gentle hands working through our hair, and the feeling of being cared for. The product was effective because it was made for us, addressing the unique challenges of coily and kinky textures that tend to lose moisture quickly. While some modern natural hair movements might dismiss grease as old school. The truth is, black women in the 70s grew healthy, moisturized hair using it. Blue Magic has survived for decades for one simple reason: it works, especially when you use it with the wisdom our mothers taught us. Let's move on to another brilliant practice that was decades ahead of its time: protective styling. Long before it had a trendy name, black women intuitively understood that the less you manipulate black hair, the more length you retain and the healthier it stays. This wasn't a trend, it was a fundamental part of hair care. Mothers would braid their daughters' hair into styles that could last for weeks. Think cornrows, box braids, or two-strand twists. These styles weren't just for looks, they were a shield, protecting the hair from the daily wear and tear that leads to breakage. Black women knew from experience that our hair, especially when natural, is fragile at the ends and prone to dryness. So, they created styles that tucked those ends away safely, kept the hair stretched to prevent tangles, and required very little daily fuss. Girls wore these beautiful, intricate styles everywhere: to school, to church, out to play. The hair would only be taken down for a wash and a braiding session. Back then, they didn't call it protective styling. It was just doing hair. It was wisdom passed down from our grandmothers, who learned through trial and error that constant combing, brushing, and handling was the enemy of length. It's why many black women who grew up in the 70s had incredibly long, healthy hair, sometimes even more so than women today who have access to an entire universe of products. They understood the secret was simply to leave the hair alone. The modern natural hair community has rediscovered protective styling as some kind of revolution. But our mothers and grandmothers in the 70s already knew the deal. It was instinctive, practical knowledge born from a deep understanding of what our hair truly needs to flourish. In the 1970s, black women all across our communities were the original formulators, mixing up their own hair oils and treatments right in their kitchens. They were using recipes passed down through generations, from women who knew exactly what black hair needed to thrive. Grandmothers would blend olive oil with rosemary or coconut oil with a little peppermint, creating these custom concoctions for specific hair and scalp issues. Our mothers would gently heat these oil mixtures, applying them as hot oil treatments to their daughter's hair. They'd wrap it up, let it sit for hours or even overnight, giving the hair this intense infusion of moisture and nourishment. These homemade treatments weren't just random kitchen experiments. They were refined recipes that black women had perfected over time. They understood which oils could actually penetrate the hair shaft, which ones would soothe the dry scalp, what would encourage growth, and which ones gave the best shine. Black women didn't need big beauty companies to sell them pre-mixed treatments, because they already had the knowledge to create their own, using natural ingredients that were affordable and, most importantly, effective. This practice of mixing custom hair treatments showed a level of hair care knowledge that, for many of us, has been lost. We've been told that professionally formulated products are somehow superior. But think about it, our grandmothers were creating custom formulas decades before companies started marketing customized hair care for a premium price. And these homemade treatments worked. They worked because black women understood their own hair. They had tested and refined these recipes over years and knew exactly what combinations of ingredients would get the results they wanted. These 8 beauty practices that black women used in the 1970s weren't just primitive, make-do solutions. They were sophisticated techniques, born out of necessity, but perfected through generations of experience. They represent a whole body of beauty knowledge that's culturally specific, incredibly effective, and deeply rooted in the relationships black women had with their mothers, grandmothers, and communities. Black women developed these practices because the mainstream beauty industry completely ignored them. The products out there weren't made for black skin and hair, so they had to create their own solutions. And in doing that, black women built a knowledge base that was remarkably advanced. They understood things about black beauty that modern science is only now starting to study and confirm. The hot comb technique, for example, required a level of skill that took years to master. Using Vaseline as an occlusive moisturizer was scientifically sound. Those kitchen grease treatments provided the essential fats that black hair desperately needs. The sulfur products addressed scalp health long before it was trendy. Castor oil was used to promote growth and prevent breakage. Blue Magic gave the heavy moisture our hair requires. Protective styling preserved hair health by minimizing manipulation. And the homemade oil treatments were custom formulations for specific needs. All of this incredible knowledge existed within black communities, passed from woman to woman, refined through practice, and proven by the results. what black women in the 1970s understood. Something we sometimes forget today is that beauty isn't about having the most products or spending the most money. It's about understanding your own features, knowing what works through experience and generational wisdom, and having the skill to use simple tools effectively. Black women achieved beautiful results with very few products because they had knowledge, technique, and cultural wisdom that you just can't buy in a store. The real tragedy is that so much of this knowledge has been lost. Younger generations of black women were told that these traditional practices were outdated, that modern products were superior, that what their grandmothers knew wasn't as valid as what corporations were marketing. But think about it. Black women in the 70s had beautiful skin, maintained with $2 Vaseline. They had healthy hair, grown with castor oil and kitchen grease. They had styles created with skill and a hot comb, not expensive tools. They had beauty achieved through knowledge, not just consumption. Reclaiming these traditional practices isn't about rejecting modern products. It is about remembering that black women figured this all out long before anyone tried to sell them solutions. It's about recognizing that the knowledge our grandmothers possessed is still incredibly valuable, that the beauty wisdom passed down through generations of black women deserves to be honored, preserved, and practiced even in an age of endless options and aggressive marketing. Your grandmother knew what she was doing when she heated that comb, when she rubbed Vaseline on your face, when she mixed oils in her kitchen, when she kept that jar of blue magic. She was practicing beauty traditions that black women had refined for generations. And those traditions worked then and can still work now for black women willing to learn or remember them.